You know that feeling when you're reading the Quran and you just know there's something deeper, a layer you're not quite reaching? Well, what if I told you there's a blueprint for that? A way to move beyond just reading the words to actually internalizing their guidance and letting them transform your life. Today, we're diving into that very blueprint, crafted by the brilliant Moroccan scholar, the late Dr. Farid Al-Ansari. And really, this is the question at the heart of it all, isn't it? This is what Dr. Al-Ansari's entire work is about. How do we take the Quran off the shelf and bring it into our hearts? How do we make it a living, breathing guide that actually shapes how we think, feel, and act every single day? So here's our roadmap for this explainer. We're going to start with the prophetic foundation this whole method is built on. Then we'll get practical and walk through the 6-step blueprint for a study circle. We'll look at how to decode the core message of any chapter, see some examples in action, and finally get to the ultimate goal, the path to transforming our character. Now, what makes Dr. Al-Ansari's approach so powerful is that it doesn't come from some modern educational theory. Nope, it's rooted directly in the mission of the Prophet Muhammad himself, peace be upon him. So this isn't some newfangled invention, it's more like uncovering the original, time-tested method. It all rests on these 3 inseparable pillars. It starts with tilawah, the beautiful recitation that softens the heart and opens it up. But that's just the key in the door. That sound then leads to tazkiyah, purification, where the words start to actually work on your soul. And all of that is anchored by ta'lim, the deep learning of the book's wisdom. You see, it's this incredible self-reinforcing cycle. Okay, so we have the foundation, but how do we actually do it? That's where Dr. Al-Ansari gives us a super practical 6-step study circle, or Majalis. And you should think of this less like a casual book club and more like an actual architectural plan for building a real, deep connection with God's words. And here it is, the whole blueprint at a glance. Just look at the logical flow. You start big picture with the theme, zoom into specific verses, pull out the practical lessons, figure out how to apply them to build character, and then lock it all in at the end. It's just brilliant. So let's break down each step. So step 1 is taqdeem. This is all about context. Before you even touch a single verse, you have to get the big picture of the surah, its central argument or its qadiyya. If you skip this, it's like trying to navigate a city without a map. You'll just get lost in the details and miss the whole point. This step is your map. Next up, instead of trying to tackle a whole chapter at once, you zoom in. You choose just a small group of verses. These are the kalimat al-ibtila, which means the words of trial. And they're called that for a reason. They're meant to challenge you, to test you, to become the focus point for your reflection during that session. Now, this next step, al-bayan al-am, is fascinating because it goes against the grain of typical academic study. The goal here isn't to get bogged down in dense linguistic debates or a dozen different scholarly opinions. It's about getting to a clear, simple summary of what the verses mean so that the guidance is accessible to absolutely everyone in the circle. Okay, this is the pivot point. This is where understanding turns into action. In Al-Huda al-Minhaji, the group works together to mine the verses for their core lessons, the risalat. The big question here becomes, so what? What is God asking me to do with this? What's the specific guidance for my life? Right here, right now. And that flows right into the most crucial step, in my opinion, Maslak At-Takhaluq, the path of character. This is where the study circle becomes a workshop for changing your life. It forces you to ask, okay, that's a great lesson. How do I actually live it? What's one specific thing I'm going to do this week to make this guidance a part of me? This is where knowledge becomes character. And finally, you have the khatima, the conclusion. But this isn't just a simple, okay, we're done. It's a powerful final reminder that ties everything you just learned back to the surah's main theme. It hammers home the lessons and really solidifies everyone's commitment to live by what they've learned. So we've seen the 6 steps. But the engine driving this entire process is that very first one, finding the central theme. Let's dig into that a little more. What does it actually mean to decode the core message of a surah? The goal is to find what Dr. Al-Ansari calls the qadiyya. Think of it this way. A surah isn't just a random collection of verses. It's like a masterful, airtight argument. The qadiyya is the core case that it's trying to prove. Every story, every command, every parable is like a piece of evidence being presented to support that one powerful central idea. I know this can sound a bit theoretical, so let's make it really practical. Let's look at a couple of examples and see how this blueprint actually works when you apply it to the Qur'an. And this is where the method just shines. Take Surah Qaf and Surah Adh-Dhariyat. They're right next to each other in the Qur'an, and they both talk about certainty. But this blueprint shows you their unique missions. Surah Qaf's whole case, its qadiyya, is about proving the certainty of resurrection, using the power of creation as evidence. But then the very next surah, Adh-Dhariyat, is all about how we attain that certainty in our own hearts, using these amazing cosmic signs to just shatter any doubt. And if we drill down into Adh-Dhariyat, we find a perfect example of extracting that practical guidance. The surah doesn't just say, be certain. It shows us how. It gives us a clear profile of the muhsinun, the doers of good who've achieved this certainty. And their path isn't abstract. It's built on specific actions we can all imitate, worshiping when others are asleep, seeking forgiveness at dawn, giving to those in need. These are the habits that build a heart of rock-solid faith. And this brings us to the final and really the most important destination of this whole journey. All of these steps, the structure, the analysis, the lessons, they're all just the vehicle. The ultimate purpose of this entire blueprint is the transformation of the self. Because the end game here is not to become a walking encyclopedia about the Qur'an. It's for the believer's character, their khuluq, to be so deeply shaped by this process that they become a walking, talking embodiment of the Qur'an's teachings. When you consistently apply this blueprint, it's a path toward a high spiritual station, a state of deep, intimate connection with God. This is known as a Rabbaniya. It's the beautiful fruit that grows from a life that's truly centered on receiving, understanding, and embodying the divine message. So we'll leave you with this. Dr. Al-Ansari has given us a clear and powerful blueprint, but even the best plans in the world require a first step. So just take a moment and ask yourself, what is the very first, maybe even small step you can take to begin the journey from just reading the Qur'an to truly living it?